Hi, and welcome back to It's Not Rocket Science, 5 questions over coffee. I'm here today with Sorin Petcu. Sorin is the CEO of Santinela. They're an agency which is dedicated to making the manufacturing efficiency greater and improving it through process improvement and using digitalization to do that. So I'm really excited about this because this is something I've done in my past. So I'm really excited to welcome Sorin today to the podcast. And Sorin, welcome to It's Not Rocket Science, 5 questions over the coffee, which I have in front of me. I know you've got one as well. Excellent news. Well done, Sorin.
You can enjoy a lot of stuff from my cup. Tea, coffee, whatever.
Yeah, whatever it takes to get through. Sorin,
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about the sort of the customers you're trying to help with this great way of trying to digitalize some of the work that's going on today in process improvement.
So first of all, Stuart, thank you very much for having me
My pleasure.
on today. So since 2003, I've been passionate about helping manufacturers to improve their manufacturing ways. Let's put it like this. And after maybe 2005, 2006, I started to see that there are lots of possibilities for digitalization in companies and especially in the manufacturing businesses. And I've been working for different companies in food and beverage, so we are more specialized in food and beverage. And in 2016, I started to do consulting work, and I found out that food and beverage companies, they were far behind, and they are still far behind in comparison um, to other industries in terms of digitalization. Digitalization is a very, very big word, I would say. And what is happening is that manufacturers have some challenges and they try to understand them. But to put it in a very simple way, if you have a factory is like a black box, right? And if you look in the box, if you look at the box, you have inputs and you have outputs. And in the box, if you don't understand it, as I was saying, is a black box. You need to do something to be as efficient as possible to get those outputs the best way possible at the right time, the right quality, the right quantity and stuff, based on the inputs you get. So the challenges that they have, especially in these difficult and changing times, is I believe to understand what they need to do to have the right digitalization. So, how do you get from a process that is pen and paper in many, many factories? And what we really want to do at Santinela, we really want to help manufacturers no matter the size. So,
Mhm.
if they are small, medium, or big. So the point is, how do you help them understand, or generally they have a big problem to not look at the holes in front of the bike, but to look in the long term because they don't have time. They are firefighting many times. And to think about how to optimize the processes they have and digitalize them. This, I believe, are big challenges that they face in digitalization besides all the other challenges they have to face, with the inflation, with the labor, with whatever. So if we talk about digitalization, is about how you get the right processes, not the wrong processes, digitalized and reliable.
Yeah, and that's the key, isn't it, Soren? Because I remember back in when I was one of the first companies I started was working with workflow technologies, and we talked about getting the right work to the right person at the right time. Um, so the problem that manufacturers face is that right process, isn't it? Which is the right process? Because you can pull a lever to digitalize a process which does not affect the efficiency of the factory, does it? You can spend a lot of time and effort processing and working on a process which actually doesn't have as big an impact as you expect it to. So it is that right process, isn't it? And some, I would guess, of your customers have spent a lot of time trying to digitalize a process and then discovered it didn't have the effectiveness that they expected it to have.
Yeah. So The most interesting case I've seen many times in factories is that they try to digitize processes that are not, as you are saying, that are not necessarily that important to the business, but most of all, they don't have the right processes in place. Like the daily management system in a factory is critical. I call it the backbone of the factory. If you don't have the right process in the shift, the shifts, 8-hour shifts, if you don't have the right meetings in the morning, if you don't talk about the right things in the morning, the KPIs, the actions from the day before, the priorities of the day, if you don't have the right processes and continuous improvement, right? What do you digitize? You digitize some firefighting system that will never give you the right results. So this is, I believe, the best example I have, and I've seen it in multiple factories. So we go there to some basics of management processes. Let's put it like this. Yeah.
Yeah, and it is that problem of knowing which is the right lever to pull, isn't it? The growth lever, the big lever that you pull, which is the greatest growth lever for any factory to improve its efficiency.
Um, from our experience is that factories have systems like ERP, warehouse management, quality system that they need for the whole for their survival and from a legal standpoint. And then they have the assets, right? They have the lines, and those lines have to produce in a reliable way. They also have the teams, of course, that need to be trained. They need to know what they are doing. They need to have reliable processes, standardized work, and stuff like this. So in our experience, the biggest lever to improve efficiency and effectiveness, let's put it like this, and productivity in a factory is by making sure that the lines and the assets run properly and
Mhm.
they produce the right quality product at the right time. And there you start with the whole package of methodologies for continuous improvement that you can of course apply and afterward digitize, right? But the biggest one I would say is the way the lines run, the OE, as general people call it, like generally people call it.
Soren, I'm just going to show on the screen now the link to your company LinkedIn profile. I know there's some interesting stuff going on there and in your website. Are there any free piece of advice you have on the website that you can help people to understand exactly how they can make use of this thinking in order to get them to sort of understand that the way they should start to attack and to approach these problems?
Yeah, well, we don't necessarily have these things on the website, but together with Leila, that was your that you invited last week. We are trying to make these messages come across to as many people as possible in the near future. But I would say if you want to improve your processes and digitize your processes, at Santinela, the way we think is the following. So, first of all, don't think short term.
Mhm.
So, short term is you can cherry pick, but you won't see the whole stuff. You won't have the time to do a holistic approach. What is really important is to understand your problems, map your processes, understand your problems, create a roadmap. This is really important. There are some companies that, they're at pen and paper, and they have some processes that sometimes are not the best ones, so they can be improved. And they're already thinking about deep learning AI, but without necessarily understanding the full extent of all this. So yeah, the way we think is, you know uh, you, depending on the maturity, you must learn how to walk, then you must learn how to run, right? So understand your processes, understand and build your roadmap. Talk to the people in your company, and especially the ones that are impacted by the change, because fear of change and not understanding the change can be a very big roadblocker. and sometimes without any sustainable proof. So it's just about the feeling of people, right? How they see the change. So afterwards, make sure that the roadmap is made in a pragmatic way because your resources are limited, right? And take a look at what you were saying before about the things that mostly impact your business, but without, you can cherry pick, but you can cherry pick from the roadmap. You don't cherry pick just to cherry pick, right? So, and make sure that you plan the improvements and that you have some way to track the success. And once you understand your needs and you create your roadmap, only then you look for the suppliers that might help you. And one more thing, the suppliers, I would say that there's really two things very important about the suppliers. The hidden costs sometimes are there. And the second one is get a supplier that can also help you, not only from, if we talk about digitalization, don't take a supplier that can only help you from an IT perspective, but also from a methodological aspect.
That's a good point. I'm just
Yeah.
going to show one point that somebody has pointed out on LinkedIn, which is it's a great point about changing the roadmap, taking from your roadmap, which is the thing. But there's a great comment that's come in from Therese Baptiste, which is unless you understand the interconnectivity of the various processes and proper implementation of change management, any change can lead to chaos. And it's a really good point because I do remember in one particular project in which I was involved, one company that I was involved with for a while, the management decided to apply some really interesting technology to one process, and all they did was made rubbish effectively move, not rubbish knowledge move through the organization much faster. I mean, I did say to them, I said, look, I hate to tell you this, guys, I'm going to use a bad word, you just made the shit flow faster rather than actually clearing out what you should have done and actually get the right. These people had just picked the wrong interconnectivity on various processes, and what they'd ended up with was a bigger mess that was now just flowing much quicker through the organization. So it's really important. And Therese makes a fit is picking suppliers to look at their understanding and compliance with ESG. That's really, really key, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I again talking about things that you have witnessed. I've also witnessed two SAP implementations a long time ago, and there was a consultant that was saying crap in, crap out. Sorry for my word, right? So whatever, you make sure you put the right data in there, and that without affecting the people that input the data, and also thinking about what's in it, about what they think, what's in it for me. Because if you just ask me to put some numbers in, then it doesn't help my work. It doesn't help the digitalization process in any way. So
Sorin, has there been a particular book or something which has affected your thinking that you'd like to share with the people that we're talking to at the moment that would help them to understand some of what you're saying?
Yeah. So first of all, I would say that in order to have good digitalization processes, you must understand the continuous improvement
Yeah,
processes.
absolutely.
So if the organizations that listen to us today have the possibility to take a step back from the daily business, and think a little bit about the continuous improvement roadmap that they'd like to implement. I think that some very good books would be TPM for process industries, which is like yeah, it was one of the first books I've ever read about about TPM. It's really great. Then you have the Toyota way, which is also really good, and it gives you. But one point here for both books, we are Europeans or from the US, or certain things do not necessarily apply as well as they would apply in Japan, for example, because we are not that, how do you say? Yeah, let's say that we have another way of thinking, right?
The culture is different, isn't it?
The
There's no
culture
point in
is different.
pretending. You're
Yeah.
right. The process improvement is culturally dependent. You cannot employ process improvement in a culture which is determined not to necessarily think in a particular way, can you?
Exactly. But these two books, they can give you hints about the steps to take, and you
Yeah.
have to adapt them to the culture and to the company you're in, right? So, but these are two books that are really great. And the third one I've just started was Why Digital Transformation Fails, by Tony Saldana. I just have it in a document here. This guy, I've just started it. So he's from Procter and Gamble, and Procter and Gamble, they are really well known in the industry for
Mm,
having
mm.
some very good processes. So, and I think that they made it, and they are making it the right way.
Yeah,
So
indeed.
I think that we can learn some things from there.
Sorin, I'm going to throw in a question which is coming from the audience, so we can have a debate around this. But it's a question of how would you engage colleagues on equality, diversity, inclusion, and belonging. What do you think are important considerations for organisations to take into account to enable things like equality and diversity to get embedded during these sort of process improvement activities that you're talking to your customers about?
Wow, that's a long question. It's a
It is
very
a long
interesting
question, isn't it? And we
question.
could
Yeah,
talk for many
yeah,
hours about it. So let's
yeah,
let's not
yeah.
bore everybody by having a long debate. But I mean, the importance of diversity and equality are quite important in process improvement, because a lot of what you're doing at the moment can seem to disadvantage people unless it's brought in so that people understand the change and understand how their part within it, isn't? And bringing people along is a really important part of process improvement activities.
So all my life, I've so one of my first credos, let's say, in life, is that I want to help people. Money comes. Money comes if people are happy at the workplace, if they come to work, liking the fact that they come to work that day. So, and in the manufacturing industry, the operator, the technicians, the people on the shop floor, they are the ones that are really making the production happen. Management is a supporting function.
Mm,
So we do believe, well, me and my colleagues, we do believe that equality and listening to people on the shop floor and making their lives easier and having good teams, that are motivated and happy to come to work, these are key to any digitalization and to any process improvement. Uh, Digitalization, if it comes top down without explaining anything to the organization, will fail in probably more than 80 to 90% of the cases. So, diversity, inclusion, belonging are really, really important in all of this. But how do you engage? I would say I don't know if we can engage at the global level ourselves, but each organization or small, medium, or big company, they should engage their colleagues, So they should think that um, an operator is equal to a manager, you know, and their needs are equal. And moreover, a production line cannot run, for the moment, cannot run without an operator, but it can run without a manager.
yeah, I've been involved in a number of change initiatives within organizations, and the one thing that I nearly always advocate for, where I can help management to understand, is to have people from the shop floor be involved in the planning process, because it's those people on the shop floor who have most understanding of where the changes will in fact impact on people. And um, and I think that without bringing those people into the planning process and actually making them part of the team, you are going to be pushing against the forces which actually you can't understand from the boardroom, you don't understand. And actually having that person sort of tell you about where the real problems are will enable you to make the digital change so much easier, because you will actually be helping those people to make their lives easier and happier. And you know, sometimes that is about inclusion. Sometimes it's about belonging. And I know that Teresa's just made a great point that they have not given consideration to employ people with more skills, and that's something that is part of this process as well, isn't it? It's bringing those people back into those skilled areas.
Um, Great points you both made, either in writing or verbally. I would like to add something here. So, um, first of all, what is happening is that you know that you have I've seen it over time two types of management in factories. Yeah, top down. So basically, most of the decisions are taken at the top level of the factory, and the operators and the first line managers don't necessarily have any influence over the decision. But this is not the right, or let's say the most successful, the most successful and the most inviting way of working. So in what we do at Santinela, we try to inverse this pyramid where operators, team leaders, first line managers take most of the decisions. And I have a great example from our customers, that has implemented a ticketing module that we have, with a chat inside, and people can work together. And just imagine that in over 3 years, uh, operators with technicians, with team leaders, with technical team leaders, they have worked on more than 100,000 tickets in a 150-person plant. Okay, so this is an extraordinary involvement of people in solving problems, and the data, the 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 solutions, the problems, operators know them, technicians know them, and most of the time they also have the right solutions for the problems, instead of getting an engineer like myself going there and creating, like the French say, l'usine à gaz, so a gas station, right, to solve a small problem. So these guys have a lot of experience. We should listen to them and make sure that their lives and their opinions are respected.
Great point. Listen, sorry, we could talk all afternoon about this, and I'm very conscious of keeping you away from doing something which I'm sure is really important in your business at the moment. So
It's a pleasure to be here.
I'll bring it to an end, though, but by asking you if there is a question that I haven't yet asked you. What would you have liked me to have asked you? And then obviously you need to give us the answer to the question that you would have liked me to have asked you.
Well, I would say that something really important to ask, but not necessarily myself, but maybe the manufacturers. I would have a question for the manufacturers. In these really challenging times, I was talking about the inputs. The inputs are getting more expensive. You don't find them, etc., etc. Right? So uh, these are things that you can control up to a point, but have manufacturers taken into account the way that continuous improvement, implementing a good continuous improvement program, with lean manufacturing, TPM, whatever, plus the digitalization, what implementing these things would bring to them in terms of resilience and competitivity. Let's put it like this.
Mm-hmm.
And this, I think that this is a question, not that you haven't asked me, but I think that it's a pretty important question for manufacturers to think about, maybe at the end of our session. So, how have they thought about continuous improvement and digitalization? Have have they taken these into account to help them um, uh, get more competitivity and productivity?
Brilliant, Sorin. Thank you so much. I'm gonna finish by thanking you for your time. Just to show one more comment from Therese. What we're trying to do with this, in case you hadn't guessed, guys, we're trying to remove these silos to give more exchange of information, because for me, removing silos in business is going to lead to greater. And I'm somebody who spends a lot of my time thinking about innovation, And one of the things that I find that too many companies think is that innovation somehow just happens. Innovation doesn't just happen. Innovation happens to come from having conversations like this, potentially with sort of different viewpoints, and that brings together new ways of doing things. So I just love having people like Sorin come on and talk and give us their insights into things. Sorin, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us, for talking about what you do at Santinela. I would encourage you all to get onto the Santinela website, which is here at santinela.com. And if you can't get onto santinela.com because you're a LinkedIn person, then get back to the LinkedIn website, which is Santinela OEE on LinkedIn. And I really appreciate you coming on and spending a bit of time with us today, Sorin. If you'd like to be one of the people who comes on and listens to these things, please join our newsletter, where I send out an email which basically says who is going to be coming on. You can get details of that at https://linkthecompleteapproach.co.uk newsletters. So that's link.thecompleteapproach.co.uk/newsletter. Go onto that website and just subscribe to the newsletter, and you will get the notification of coming and spending some time, like people like Therese has done today, and being able to ask questions of our guests like Sorin and future guests. Sorin, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us. Really appreciate your insights. Love the conversation.
It's been a real pleasure to be with you. Thank you very much for the invitation.
No problem. We could talk all afternoon and my coffee would go cold, and I don't want that to happen. So you need to get back to your job. Thank you so much for joining us. Really do appreciate it.
Have a great day. See you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.